Exploring the Paranormal Perspective. Perspective.
You're supposed to say the lines.
Oh, is it? I gotta say that?
Yes.
Public service announcement. Views and opinions or other opinions. Fuck that bullshit. They are my opinions and my guests, no one else's. Remember, this show ain't for chitlins' ears, so listening discretion and viewing discretion is advised. This is a paranormal horror crime show, so the scenes and the sounds could be a little terrifying to those little ears and those little eyeballs. And of course, there's obviously cussing. I mean, it's me. Also, please don't do anything that these stupid ass people do in this video or this podcast. This is for entertainment purposes and for you guys to listen with your ears. Consume the knowledge. And now, time for the show. Exploring the Paranormal Perspective. Exploring the Paranormal Perspective.
All right, what's up, everybody? It's Shauna with Exploring the Paranormal Perspective, founder of Geeks Paranormal, or you can just call me Geeks. Everybody else does. I have a great podcast today because I have a wonderful guest. I have Christopher Michael, who has written a couple of books. One's not out yet, but it's going to be out soon. And not only that, he was in the military. So he's a military brother from another mother. So y'all welcome him here. Hi. How are
How's
you?
it going? I'm pretty good.
Good. Hang on. I got somebody popping in the chat.
Sister from another mister.
Yep. So, Christopher, you have been, do you go by Christopher? Do you go by Chris?
Just call me Chris.
Just call you Chris. All right.
Yeah.
I can do that. You have had so many horrors that you've already gone through yourself, much less what you're writing about. So go ahead and pop in and tell me a little bit about your journey from being an Army veteran to being an author.
It's a long one because it was like I had always written. Like I was always writing, but I was always one of those guys that I would write, and it would be like kind of like the mood. It would just be
Mm-hmm.
going, and then life would just get in the way, and I would just drop it, and it just never got picked back up. I can't think of how many different like works that I've been working on that had just never happened. And this is probably since like before the military, like maybe even high school and stuff like that.
Oh.
So yeah, it's like it's always been that way. So I did the military that I was in from '05 to 2017.
Oh
So
wow.
I
So you're
mean,
in for a
between
while.
guard and all that, I still am guard right now. But active duty for a long time, like about 8 years and stuff. And yeah, like then I got out and started into my law enforcement job that I'm in right now. So it kind of was one of those things where the longer I was out, though, the longer I was having to start to deal with some demons and some bad times and things like that.
Mm.
And all of a sudden one day I was starting to write again, just kind of hit the mood. And then that work started to fall through. It was just kind of like, I can't do this. It's not doing any good. But there was one little piece of that story I was writing where it was sort of like an Easter egg, I guess you could
Mm.
say. And I was like, maybe I'll just try a short story on something like this. And then that just suddenly spun and spun and spun. And next thing you know, it's like I had my first full novel that I finished.
Wow. So the inspiration that you got for your books, did that come from some of your time overseas?
Yeah, a lot. This one's in World War II,
Mm-hmm.
but so obviously, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm not old enough to have been there. um,
Maybe
but
in a past life.
yeah, who knows, but I don't know. It was like I wanted to make characters that like I could relate to, but then also the thing is I wanted them to have that sort of, I guess you could say, like common sense or like that
Mm-hmm.
training sort of thing. You see so many movies and books where people do dumb things for the sake of getting the plot to roll forward, or you're like, that was so stupid. Why would that guy have done that? Or things like that. And I was like, I wanted to write a plot where the protagonist actually has training or acknowledges maybe that he has training, but there's a reason maybe he is ignoring it. I wanted things that made sense. And so I did a lot of that stuff it was like that, kind of keep the common sense stupid type of thing.
Yeah. Well, your time over in
Mm-hmm.
Afghanistan, for it to influence your writing, did you have to do a lot of historical research on some of the stuff that you wrote about in? Because I noticed you talked about the Nazis and you talked about how they were trying to. I'm not going to tell you guys what
Oh,
the book was about because I did read some of it. I didn't get a chance to read all of it, but oh my God, guys, y'all have got to read this book. But
yeah. The historical research is God, I almost want to like say that I probably spend more time researching than I actually do writing. Like sometimes it's like I'll be in the middle of writing and just be like, hold on, I gotta check on that. Next thing you know, it's like I'm down, and it's weird. Like there's so many things like when you think about like certain times of history and stuff like that, where maybe
Mhm.
things weren't as well documented and things like that. Or it's like they're like, oh, historians believe this happened, this happened. There's a lot of playroom, but like World War II is just documented ad nauseum. Like it's like
Right.
I mean, like somebody like spit on the sidewalk and it's probably like documented somehow. So it's like once you start going, the rabbit hole just spirals out of control. And then
Right.
like sometimes that'll take it to where it's like you're like crap. Now I have to rewrite this entire section of the book. Like it's like that. So yeah, the research part is I don't know. I'm not going to go as far as to say that it's not fun because it's definitely fun. It fills
Mhm.
I'm a useless facts person too, so it's like it fills the bank with all kinds of useless facts. But yeah, it can also be a pain in the ass at the same time.
Well, isn't it awesome though, whenever you actually do your research and find the facts of stuff that maybe was misconstrued or not stated correctly through other means? I mean, kind of like
Yeah,
now.
yeah. It's oh my god. Like now, it's like there is a lot of stuff that you'll see. I don't know if it's sort of like, yeah, I guess you could call it like urban legend type of stuff, or just things where it's like maybe something might not have been true, but just people kept saying it over and over and over and over. And
Right.
then next thing you know, it's like you've got books written all about certain topics or a battle or somebody's acts of heroism or something like that. And then like when you actually do like a deep dive on the research, people are like, that never ever happened. And I don't know how it got to the point where people keep saying that it did, but here we are.
Right. I guess they want to keep saying it to make sure it's true. You know, if you keep saying something over and over again, it makes it true, right?
Yeah, yeah. That was, I think that as funny as that was, going back into it, I think that was actually one of Hitler's advisors said that. It's like if you repeat the lie for long enough, then people start to believe it.
Well, right, because they were like once you do your research, you understand that they were doing this mass what was it? Mass
Well, it's
hypnosis
like a
kind of thing.
psyop. It's like a psyop. Like they were basically, it's like it's propaganda and all of that stuff to like keep people, thinking one thing. It's like, and if you just keep telling it over and over again, especially I think in that era, you had a lot more ability to believe it because it's like there weren't a whole lot of avenues for people that
Right.
were hearing their propaganda to get alternatives.
Right.
Now it's like, you're flooded with so many alternatives. It's like it's almost hard to know what's true because you've got
Exactly.
50 different things.
50 different things, so many different places that you can find things, and you got to make sure what you're finding is
Yeah.
true.
And all of them sometimes sound so equally ridiculous that you're just kind of like, okay, well, whatever it is, this is it's going to be retarded regardless.
Yes, definitely. Now, through your writing, you have like a little bit of a Lovecraftian flair there. What drew you to the Lovecraftian genre, and how did you put your own unique spin on it when in your books?
That's kind of a funny one, and I've had people ask me this one before, and it's so weird because I can't tell you exactly what drew me to that genre. The first thing that I ever had an interaction with was of Lovecraft, and being a gamer, you probably have heard, but Call of Cthulhu.
Mm-hmm.
I remember playing Call of Cthulhu, Dark Corners of the Earth on the original Xbox and thinking that, yeah, I know, right? It's like I'm dating myself, but
No,
it's,
I'm older
um,
than you, honey. I
fair
understand.
enough. But yeah, it's like the original Xbox, and I didn't even realize that that was Lovecraft at the time. And then one day, I think I had like a long drive, and I was trying to find some audiobooks. I was scrolling through, and I remember I've always heard Lovecraft's name, kind of the horror scene and things like that. But then I saw Call of Cthulhu. I was like, oh, this is the game. And then I think that was the first time that I was just listening to his stories like while I was driving, and I was like, something about it. I don't know. When it's like you find a genre of something, or like just an author, or like a filmmaker, just anything, and it's like there's just something about it that really kind of catches you, and it just did
Yeah.
that for me.
Oh, wow. So whenever you started inputting that into your book, did you think that whenever you were writing the Danforth, because it's going to be a series,
Yeah.
you've already got the first one, you've already written the second one.
Yeah.
So whenever you started writing it, was that one of the things you wanted to put into it, or was it just?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I guess like a little bit of a background on this is the character Danforth is actually a character that appeared in one of Lovecraft's old short stories. As a side character, it was at the Mountains of Madness. You ever see of course you have. It's a stupid question, but you've seen the movie The Thing, the John Carpenter one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that one, I think it took a lot of influence from At the Mountains of Madness, like the Antarctica thing and stuff like that. But he was a side character. And so, like I said, this one just kind of came out of like an Easter egg. I think when I was writing another book, I had just sort of plugged this in there as sort of like an Easter egg, as like, oh, it's like, did you know that after this, it's like that happened to him and stuff. It wasn't meant to be a book, but instead it's like it ended up kind of, I don't know, being the one that I could actually keep going with.
Now, whenever you started writing about him, did he just sort of like I don't know, take over your mind whenever you started writing, or was it? I mean, do you know what do you understand what I'm saying when I?
Like the
'Cause-
character?
yeah, the character.
I think so because I had read the story before, like At the Mountains of Madness is one of my favorite ones. And there's something about the character in that one that everyone, like I've listened to different podcasts and things like that. Every time they're reviewing the story, the character of Danforth really resonates with everybody because one of the things about Lovecraft stories is everybody who's the narrator always seems to have this kind of weird tendency to like refuse to believe what's going on and like accept what's happening to them. They're always trying to be extremely logical.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny part is the character of Danforth is sort of the character that's saying what the audience is saying the entire time. So while this
Yeah.
narrator's like, oh my gosh, it's like Danforth was like making some offensive like insinuations that what might have happened was blah blah blah, and you're like, he's making offensive insinuations because he's right. He's the only one who seems to know what's going on right now. And
Right.
so like everybody kind of likes the character for that reason. And so it was one of the ones where I was like, well, maybe I could use this character in the same kind of way where it's like he seems to have like a head on his shoulders and stuff, or maybe understands a little too much of what's going on. And maybe that can make him like interesting in another story.
You've got a lot of 5-star reviews on that book. I was looking
Oh,
through the
really?
review. Yes, I was looking through the reviews, and I was like, wow, they're really digging it, and they're really waiting for the second book to come out from what I'm reading on them. But
No, I hope I hope it doesn't disappoint, I guess.
well, it hasn't disappointed them, and they're ready for the next one. And I'm what I'm reading so far. I'm getting into it, and it's been a while since I've been into a book. So this is
Nice.
your writing style is very impressive, and it's an awesome read so far from what I've read. But how do you balance the historical accuracy with the fantastical elements of Lovecraft horror?
Ooh, that's one of the hard ones. Like that's like the real hard one. Because it's like what I'm kind of trying to do is it's like if it's something where he's in a major something major that's going on, like historically
Mhm.
documented and stuff, I put him into it and then I keep him in it and I keep the historical accuracy like 100%. Where it starts to deviate and stuff like that, I kind of remove him and isolate him away from the historical elements. But then I
Mhm.
still have things where I'll do like an outline of my timeline on and how I want it to go. And then what I do is right next to that one, I'll make a completely separate, historically accurate timeline of what was happening in World War II at the time of the story. And then I
Mhm.
have to line them up so that each event happens as it goes and stuff. So what I said was it was like, unless I can find absolutely no way of bending the story or something like that, I try to
Mhm.
keep 100% historical accuracy throughout the entire thing.
Oh, that does sound hard.
Yeah, it's a pain. It's a pain. Like I said, it's like there's been things where it's like I've been writing, and then I was like, okay, and I start researching. I was like, oh crap. I was like, man, I completely overlooked that. And then it's like I gotta like rejig the entire book in order to like make way for that one.
Oh no. So that
It
takes a lot of
happens.
time. How long did it take you
Mhm.
to write this book?
The crazy part was it was like the other one I was writing on for the one that ended up getting dropped. I was probably writing on that one for a year. When I started on this one, I got this thing knocked out in probably less than 90 days. I was
Wow.
it was a very serious downtime at work, and what was
Mhm.
happening was it was like I was working weekends when there was nothing going on.
Mhm.
Um, And I was just like, well, you know what? It's like if I'm gonna work weekends and have to sit here on my butt, I'm gonna make good use of this like
Right.
time. And so it was like I had mandatory 10-hour days at work.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's like that was 10 hours of just hammering it out and having a good outline. It only didn't take me a whole lot of time to make the outline for this one. The second one's been a little bit more trying to kind of work things a little to be more accurate and stuff. But this one,
Mhm.
it was like for the most part, it was just trying to like make sure that my locations, because it was like in Egypt and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody likes researching that stuff, so it was a lot of fun.
Right. Especially
Hmm.
whenever you get to the pharaohs and the tombs and everything. Those are absolutely awesome.
Oh, that's one of my dream travel places.
Ah, so you want to go over there and see some of the
Um,
tombs and everything. Yeah.
if somebody said like, I have no want or need to go and see the pyramids, I'd slap them. Like, what is wrong with you?
Right?
Like
The paranormal aspect.
The Batman
Oh.
Robin meme where he's just like
Mm.
clocking him in the face or something Egypt's boring. I don't think I would want to go there. Like, shut your mouth.
Shut your mouth, bitch. What's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Well, can you share a particularly chilling moment from the Danforth series that showcases the intersection of real world conflict and the Eldritch terror?
So let me see. One of the things that I did, it was fun making the book because it was like I wanted to make it. I wrote it almost like it's a World War II memoir, not necessarily that it's like something that's being like told from a third person or anything like that. It's like it's supposed to look like Danforth is basically just writing his memoir from when he was in World War II. And I did different stuff. Like I was able to write reports. I researched what the OSS reports looked like in World War II
Mm-hmm.
and recreated them. And then I actually was able to snip Colonel Donovan's signature from that report,
Ah.
and put it on there. So Colonel Donovan's signatures are on all these reports talking about Danforth stuff. And I actually even have a transcript that matches an actual transcript of an interrogation of one of the Nazi SS agents and stuff. And like it's just going back and forth. And then like at the end of the interrogation, even though Danforth kept his identity hidden, the Nazi actually knows his name and
Oh.
says that it's like the outer gods know who he is and things like that and stuff. It's just it's a fun one. I love it.
Oh gosh, that is pretty cool. Now,
Mhm.
walk us through your writing process. How do you research and develop ideas for your novels?
So one of the things is like Lovecraftian horror and like just sort of like the Lovecraft universe is one of those universes I think that's sort of like a hidden gem. Like I said, it's like if you want a rabbit hole to go diving down and stuff like that for like all the different stuff, it's like one of the things that I did want to do though was not be like all the other World War II type of series and stuff like that. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like, it's always very general, the places that they end up in World War II. Now, the first one is in Egypt, and I think I felt like I had to take my story and the audience there first because there's so much of Lovecraftian lore that goes back to Egypt and like Iran and Arabia and like all this other stuff. So it was such a big part of like the lore and especially with the way that the U.S. entered World War II, I
Mm-hmm.
felt like I was kind of like, okay, I have to go there. But now with these new books, I'm trying to take people to places in World War II that people didn't really know a whole lot about that existed. Like the second one, he's going to be in Romania.
Oh,
Yeah, so this one's been a lot of fun writing.
oh my
I mean,
gosh.
especially with like Nosferatu just coming out and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like, oh, this is a blast. Like I'll be like writing on it. Then like the next one, he's gonna be like in China, India, Burma.
Oh
I have
wow.
another one set with the Czech Republic where there's a Hoska Castle where the Nazis actually in real life performed a
Mm-hmm.
lot of their like crazy occult rituals and stuff like that. So
Oh
um,
man.
yeah, it's a lot of fun, and there's so much like lore in the Lovecraft universe. And then as weird as it is, it's like World War II itself almost has like its own lore and weird, like just kind of weird aspects and stuff.
Oh wow. My friend is actually married to a Romanian, so
Really,
I am going to look forward to reading that one, especially what you
I
come up.
hope it meets. Like I was always like, and I wish I knew somebody who was like an actual Romanian citizen. So it's like I could have them like read over it and be like, no, no, this is crap or something like that. And like I was like, I'd rather hear it before putting it out instead of like like write it and then you're like you end up like looking at it as like, oh, look, it looks like it pissed off the entire country of Romania on accident or something.
Nah, I don't think you could ever do that. Not with what, because you're pretty thorough with what you have come up with. What is what's the most challenging aspect of weaving suspense and atmosphere into your narratives?
Ooh, I'm a slow burn type of guy where it's like I like to start it off where you get very little information, and then as the information grows. So one of the things about Lovecraftian horror in general is the he always said that it's like the big aspect of Lovecraftian horror is like that fear of the unknown. It's like, and he even said in some of his letters, he was like, the less the audience knows sometimes, the scarier things can be. So what you want to do, especially like writing it from like kind of like a World War II memoir thing, is it's like I only want the audience reading it to know what Danforth knows, and Danforth still doesn't know everything about what was going on. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like he just finds out more and more and more, and the more he starts to kind of go down these different rabbit holes on where he's investigating, like the more his mind starts to go. Because one of the things, like I said, about Lovecraftian horror too, is it's this very it's kind of like based around the idea that it's like there's things in the universe and just in our world that are so far beyond our understanding and our ability to comprehend them, that just to find out too much knowledge could drive someone to like madness or suicide.
Right.
So it's like it's like kind of this idea that the universe is full of like these like kind of nihilistic, malign deities that really couldn't give a shit less about humanity. Like they're kind of like an ant on the floor, to this thing.
Yeah.
And just knowing too much about it is like your mind will break because you can't handle it.
I think that's a lot of things that's going on now. Too much shit.
The UAPs and stuff like that.
Yeah, like Project Blue Book.
How are you supposed to wrap your head around that? I love that they decided to drop that during COVID too, where it's
right?
like, oh yeah, it's like, by the way, it's like aliens are real. It's like, you don't
Look
think
at
we have
this
enough
hand.
shit to deal with right now that you're gonna tell us that
right?
aliens are real in the middle of like all this crap?
In the middle of a pandemic where you're trying to keep us in the house constantly and controlled. Yeah, no, that's not gonna
like,
work.
oh, this is so horrible. People's minds are being corrupted by the internet. Oh, by the way, aliens are real. And anyway, so the next thing we're gonna do,
yeah, right.
like it's like, oh, great. So it's like you want people to go even crazier on the internet. That's
exactly. Well, they were trying to make people crazy back in the day. You remember the Inquirer? Inquiring minds want to know. You know, like how many of this was actually real compared to what they're saying wasn't.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, like, that's the thing, right? Is it's like the Inquirer had all those like things where you're like, that's so loony.
Right?
Like, that wouldn't have. And now you're like, maybe
wait a minute.
Like,
they just came out that aliens were real. Now what?
I loved the Inquirer when I was little, though. Like when my parents would take me into the store, it was so fun because it's like when you're going toward the checkout aisle and you're like, I wonder what kind of crazy shit they're gonna have on the cover of this thing too. And they're like, oh look, they caught the Loch Ness monster.
Right. That one, and then I remember one very vividly. It was like the dog mama. It was like a dog person that had puppies, and it was like,
oh, I hadn't seen that one.
Oh, that one's very vivid in my mind for some reason. And it was like, well, I guess because I was just talking to a friend of mine about dog people and the Mothman prophecies and all that. But it was like, I remember seeing that thing, whatever it was, on a concrete floor with puppies. And it was like, where did they get these people?
What the hell is that?
Right? It's like, what the hell? But they had so many funny things on the front. I say funny things, but they also had a lot of the, I was abducted and I'm here to tell my story. And it was like,
and I still to this day, it's like I said, and one of the things I think about my writing that I try to do too, and kind of take the same kind of approach is like, I'm very logical about stuff. And one of the things like the Lovecraftian horror is everybody who is the narrator in all these stories, they're always approaching it from the most logical, scientific, hey, even though something crazy happened, I can explain that away with something. It's like that wasn't anything until it's like stuff starts to kind of roll and roll and roll, and then you're like, oh no, like like you can't explain that away, can you? But yeah, like there's still things with like the abductions where I'm kind of like, I still am on the fence about it. I'm still kind of like,
Right?
because it's like you always thought that some of these people were quacks, but then they're like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, now the Air Force and the Navy have the like the Tic Tac and the fast mover video and
Yeah.
like all that, and you're like, oh man, it's like because now that you see that this stuff is happening right in front of your eyes, are these people quacks or
Right?
are they telling the truth and you just thought they were until now maybe they're getting validated? I don't know. It's
Well, they try to make some of these people look crazy. I mean, look at what they
well, some
do
of these people
now.
don't help themselves out any, but
No,
like
they
I was
don't.
abducted by aliens. It's like,
And
dude,
this is what happened.
yeah. It's like, are
Um,
you sure you weren't on meth? Because that's what it looks like right
right.
now. It's like, like what like Randy Quaid in the Independence Day movie and stuff
Oh
like that,
yeah.
where he's like
Oh
all
yeah.
drunk and stumbling everywhere. Ever since I was kidnapped by aliens, I was like, oh god, here we
Like, well,
go.
you're not helping your case none, bub. Sorry.
Like even when aliens are attacking the world, he brings up like when he got kidnapped by aliens and people still roll their eyes like they're like,
Yeah.
oh, this dude.
We have to hear this again. I
It's like, oh, we've
mean,
heard it before, dude. Give it a rest, will you?
well, in your stories, you
Mhm.
you brought up World War II. Why World War II? What got you so fascinated with this historical event that you wanted to write about it?
So one of the things that I liked about the Lovecraftian stories and stuff like that was it was like they all kind of take place in the early part of like the 20th century, kind of like that,
Mm,
early 1900s, 20s, 30s, things like that. And I feel like it was like they were so good in that respect because it's like they I guess maybe that time period, there's still so much unexplored stuff. And I mean, when you think of like Indiana Jones and stuff, it's like from like the 1930s prior, it was like there's still so much unknown out there, I guess. And I feel like World War II and after was where so much globalization and surveillance state type of stuff and just
mhm.
so much stuff started to get documented and things like that that it's like a lot of the unknowns of the world kind of started to go away.
Yeah.
Even though there's still a lot of like unexplored places, it's like you still have like that kind of feeling like it's like after World War II, that's when it kind of fell off. But World War II itself has so much crazy mystery surrounding it in a lot of
Right.
respects. And so being that I sort of resonated with the character Danforth, I was like, okay, his story, like at the Mountains of Madness, was in 1931. How about what happens if 10 years later World War II hits? What happens to these
Right.
characters when World War II hits? And so then I kind of already knew, but I started to kind of be like, okay, well, what if like we used like the occult elements that are very, very prevalent in Lovecraft with like, hidden cults and like all
Yeah.
this other stuff and apply it to like the Axis. And then, but then like, man, that was when it really started going was because once I started researching like the things that like the Nazis in particular, but even the Japanese and stuff like their obsession with like occultism, spiritualism, and like
Mhm.
even like satanic stuff. It was like I said, the rabbit hole was so deep. I was like, man, there's almost limitless amount that could be done with that.
Right.
Hmm.
Like how were you able to do a lot of the research on World War II? Because I know whenever I done my own research with World War II and the concentration camps and everything, because I had
Yeah.
a grandpa that was in the concentration camp. It was hard
Oh
to
wow.
find. Yeah, it was hard to find a lot of things because they had burned a lot of the
Hmm.
information. So how were
Yeah.
you able
So
to find?
the occultism part. So that's another part where it was kind of like you said, right? Where it was like certain things about Nazi occultism have been spun out of control, like crazy, like people writing books on it about certain stuff that's like is not even confirmed to have happened. But then that also kind of opens up the door, right? Where it's like, okay, well, it's not confirmed that it happened, but not confirmed that it didn't. and
That's
and like you
true.
said, it's like, and there's really a lot of documented things with Himmler. They had an entire so Indiana Jones, the first movie, or I guess all of the movies when it had the Nazis in there, they had an organization even called the NNRB, and it was actually a Nazi SS archaeological organization whose job was to go around the globe and find different artifacts and stuff like that that would basically prove the um, Aryan supremacy of the Nazis and stuff. So it's like it was basically a way for them to create propaganda. If they could go and find this crazy biblical or occult artifact or anything like that, and then try to use that to basically prove that they had been descended of like some great superior race in the past or something. So it's like they ran around the globe all over. They were in Tibet hunting for like this evidence of a Yeti there, saying that
Oh
it
my
like
God.
might be, yeah, it might be the like the where the Aryan race descended from. They were in they weren't in Egypt as much. I think that was kind of a thing that was a little misunderstood, and because of Indiana Jones, everybody assumes, but they were in Hungary, all over Europe. So like less different parts of Africa, different parts of Asia, just all over the globe looking for all these occult artifacts. And then it said like what they would do is they would bring it back, and Himmler, who was the leader of the SS, was really obsessed with occultism, spiritualism, like trying to call like kind of malevolent entities out to do the Nazis' bidding. Like that's where the thing with Hoska Castle comes in. Was they had and it's true too. It's like with like scientific research, they said that the old legend was is that a fissure to hell opened up in the ground, and there's a fissure under the castle, like from a earthquake or something, and that the castle was built over top of this hole that led to hell to keep the demons out. And then the Nazis took the castle. It's in the Czech Republic. They took over the castle, and they were like trying to summon like dark like entities and stuff during their time there.
Oh,
So
because
now the
that's always
castle must be
great.
haunted. Yep.
Let's bring demons in it. Come
Yeah, I know.
on.
It was like, yeah, I'm sure that couldn't have gone bad in any way, shape, or form.
So, are there any
So,
specific historical events or locations that's kind of sparked your ideas for the future novels? I know you said Romania and Czech, and that
yeah,
due to
Romania
the
and Czech. It was kind of funny. I actually put out a poll with some of my ex followers, like where would you like to see like one of the things go? Because I've got stories for like anywhere you can think of, but for some reason, a lot of the people that were following me said that they would really be interested in seeing China, Burma, India. So that was kind of interesting. I thought maybe it would be like so stereotypically going to like the Pacific Islands or something. Like it'd be
right.
like, okay, yeah, we've all been to this, we've all watched the Pacific on HBO or something like that. So it's like, let's do that one. But no, they wanted to see that. So I was kind of excited. I was like, okay, different place, different time. Like it should be
Right.
fun.
That sounds fun. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh. So, you are ex-military. So,
Yes.
in your time in Afghanistan, did you encounter any kind of local legends or folklore that influenced your writing?
Um, so I have a whole other fantasy series that I'm writing right now. It's kind of, I'm not going to say it's on the back burner. It's kind of just being written as the time goes and stuff like that. But that one definitely was interesting. Like definitely influenced by it because like in Afghanistan, at least when I was there, it was like from what you see, it's like the people there believe in so many like crazy things. I mean, it's kind of one of the things where it's like that idea that it's like in different parts of the world, it's like, like spirituality is really part of the like the culture and stuff like that. It's like, so the idea of like there being like malevolent spirits, ghosts. I mean, like some of the people there in certain villages even believe with like the giants and the dragons and things like that. Like they believe that stuff, and they'll like even say like they'll be like, oh, you shouldn't go up on the mountain. It's like, why? And they're like, oh, well, there's this thing, and like even our turf would be like, I really don't know what that is or something. Like he's saying there's something up there, and then they'd be like, oh yeah, like blah blah blah, and he's like, okay, from the sound of what he's like describing, it basically almost sounds like some kind of weird troll or something like that. But
Right.
if you go up onto the mountain at night, it'll eat you. Or like another one, they'd be like, "Oh, there's a dragon on the mountain that lives in a cave. If you go there, it'll eat you." And it's like all
Oh
these
my
things. There's
God.
like every single one kind of ties back to the moral of the story is don't go on the mountain at night or you're going to die. like okay, that sounds fair. Like I mean, it's like one of the things where it's like you could imagine it being told to kids to keep them
Mm-hmm.
around, but then since there's not, maybe I don't know, maybe it's they don't have that tie to education or
Mm-hmm.
some of this other stuff where it just it spirals out to where people are like, oh yeah, it's like there is actually a dragon up on the mountain and stuff. So and
Well,
even
oh,
some, they had like a big pile of stones, and they said
mm-hmm.
that there was a giant buried there. And they're like, there's not a giant buried there, dude. It's just a big pile of stones. And they'll be like, no, there's a giant buried there because there's people from this village who knew him, or something like that. It's like, huh? Yeah.
Wow. Well,
And
it's
it's
kind of like
like,
that video you sent me, with which it was talking about military personnel getting involved with the giant, and they were
mhm.
shipping the body of the giant back.
Yeah, I
And
don't.
oh my,
That one's always been sort of like that urban legend. That's the other thing too, is
yeah.
like U.S. military create like sort of like their own urban legends there simply through like being sort of like in this place where there's like it's so ancient and so unknown, and just in certain ways it's like you can see it. It's like it's beautiful, it's biblical, it's so, I would almost say pre-medieval in certain places, that it sort of gives you that feeling. It's like this place is a place where there's so many unknowns and stuff that could be here.
Wow.
And there's some creepy stuff that happens around there too. So
Did you experience any creepy paranormal stuff while you were there?
yeah, there's stuff sometimes that you have a hard time explaining, and it'd be one of those things where, like, say, sometimes like they would say that like a place was haunted. Like I know, like the old Kandahar city, they would say was haunted. Some other places in like Kandahar itself, like I feel like there's no place that they don't say has some sort of like haunted aspect, because it's like the place that there's very few places you can go there where somebody hasn't died in violence or something. And
Right.
so sometimes you would just see things where it's like we would have like our FLIR, it'd be like white or black hot, so you can see when something is there and it's alive. But then you'd maybe see like a person, or what looked like
Mm-hmm.
a person or something moving, but it's not the temperature that it should be or something. So you're
Oh.
just like, okay, maybe that's Taliban scouts. Maybe they're wearing something that's making it so that they're not picking up on the FLIR or something. I don't know what it is, but then nothing happens. And so you're
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like left wondering, it's like, what was that we saw that was like moving around that
Mm-hmm.
was cold? So yeah,
Right.
there's some weird things. One of the places I wanted to see, I didn't get to see it. They have like the ruins of the I forget the name of it off the top of my head. We'll probably have to look it up, but it was called the City of Screams. I don't know if you remember seeing that from that one clip, but
Oh, I don't think I
it's
got that far yet.
yeah, Genghis Khan, when he was conquering the Levant and stuff like that, he put this entire city to death. Like they just wiped the city off the map. There's only ruins there, and so now it's like they say, yeah, and soldiers said this, the locals say this. It's like if you stay outside the city and stuff like that at the ruins, it's like you can hear like people screaming and stuff like that from the old ruins
Oh,
there.
wow. Chills,
Yeah,
man. Oh my
yeah, it's
God.
crazy.
Well, how do you incorporate the sense of dread and uncertainty from the military experience that you've experienced into your writing?
So that was one thing, right? Was it was like so when I was in Afghanistan, I deployed with a long range surveillance company,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like I was an infantryman, like paratrooper, and we were in these like basically like long range surveillance teams, and they're small teams, like 6 guys usually max, but sometimes we might have like 7 or 8 at the best. And our whole goal is like deep line reconnaissance. So sometimes it could be like up to 100 kilometers ahead of the forward line of troops. And there would be times when there's people passing by, a lot of people, and like they're coming through like these different areas of the mountains, like funneling fighters in there. And you're like 6 dudes, sometimes split up into like 2-3-man teams, and you just have to just sit there silently and just watch them go by, because you can't fight them. If you get discovered or something like that, if you end up in a tick, like, and you're not in something like a regular platoon or some size, then it could be bad for you. So I was always kind of like, I can maybe take that and incorporate that into my writing, where it's like, trying to convey that sense of like, the dread is right there, and it's just happening and happening and happening. And the only thing that's keeping anything bad from happening is you trying to keep a level head.
Right. Oh my God. That would be maddening in and of itself, trying to stay quiet and not be seen.
Mm-hmm. You're just like
Oh
in a
my
hole
gosh.
and stuff like that, like covered up with a camo net, like with a scope, and you're just kind of like, there may be like, 100 feet away or something like that, like walking down the mountain, and you're just sitting there like just watching them. So it's like,
Oh my God. And anybody that's been in the military knows that if you're in a place where it's kind of silent, anything that is
yes.
done can sound so loud.
Yeah, very. Especially like when you get up on like a mountainside too, and it's like the mountains there are like made of like this like shale shit, like this rock. So
Oh
it's like
God.
even digging into it sometimes is damn near impossible. So it's like sometimes it's like you're literally just on the surface in like this crappy spot with like a tan camo net over you that you've tried to spray paint to look like the mountainside.
Oh my
And
God.
and you're just hoping that like nothing gives you away. Like it could even be the slightest thing. So we would take like our spotting scopes and like just anything, and we would put like burlap over them and stuff, so it's like the glare from the sun couldn't be seen, because even that, like if you're watching, if someone looks over and the right angle hits at the right time and he sees a glare, that's unnatural. That's not something that you're going to see in nature, and they're going to see you, and they know.
Oh God, that's scary. That is some scary shit. Oh geez. I never went overseas. Thank you for your service, by the way.
Yeah, you don't need to.
But yeah. Oh yeah. Anybody that puts their life on the line as a volunteer thing is always blessed me. But that dread is just, oh my God. I can only imagine. It was dreadful enough doing practice shit in the military, much less having to do it for real.
Well, it's like if you don't feel that dread, sometimes it's like the war has a way of checking you and stuff. Like there'd be things where, we're there for a whole year. And so it's like I have some stories that are, sometimes it's like people will be like, oh, it's like you got like a few stories, huh? And it's like, well, yeah, but I mean, those few stories are sprinkled out through a whole year, where it's like in between that, I was bored as fuck. like, just getting complacent, like la-di-da-di-da, and like everything's fine. And next thing you know, your truck strikes an IED or something like that. And it's just like this shit gets immediately real, where you're just like, you realize that it's like, if you stop being on alert, that can be it for you. If you just decide like, you know what, it's like, screw it, I'm gonna just decide to cut across this area or something like that, because it'll be easier to drive. It's like, I've driven this thing 100 times, like who gives a rat's ass? And then next thing you know, it's like your mind roller gets blown off.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Now, being out of the military, I know me being out of the military, I've been out of the military for over 20 years, and I still get like chances where I'm on alert constantly. And they call us conspiracy theorists a lot for some of the things that we sit there and on a high alert for. During your time of COVID and everything, did you ever have that sense of high alert? Like, oh fuck, that something is about to go down, or they're trying to do
when I
something.
saw a video of drones in New York City that were like, had a speaker on them telling people to stay 6 feet apart, I was just like, like, what the fuck
Right?
is that? I felt like I was in like some sort of weird dystopian thing. And then
Mhm.
like cops beating the shit out of people for not wearing a
Right?
mask or something like that. I was like, what in the world is going on right now? Like I really did feel like, and then especially when it's like it went on to COVID, to the 2020 election, to
Mm.
January 6th and things like that. And especially after like before the election, you had a whole summer of people burning cities and things like
Yeah.
that. It's just that whole time frame. Like, so I feel like January 6th sort of was the I guess the thing where I was really scared that
Yeah.
things were really going to go south, not because of the actual incident itself. I
Mm.
was like, okay, the incident itself, I was like, that's 300 yahoos that broke into the Capitol and acted like
And they
morons or something.
necessarily didn't break in, they were let
Yeah,
in.
it's like, oh yeah, and then like when you see the videos sometimes of like it's like they didn't even
Yeah.
break. Most of them were walking around just like looking at stuff. Like
Yeah.
you had some of them that were committing criminal acts,
Yeah.
but it's like, yeah, some of them were just like let in. But I think I was even without knowing that, it was like I didn't see that at first. But I think my heightened thing was I was like, I even told my wife and family and things. I was like, they're going to use this as an excuse to ramp up surveillance on people, to
Oh,
go
yeah.
after people. And then when like guys like John Brennan would go on TV and be like, "Oh yeah, I think it's about time we start like
Making the
launching a
list.
domestic, yeah, like he was like a domestic
Yes.
war on terrorism." It's like, what's
Yes.
that supposed to look like? What are you gonna drone strike some dude in his backyard or something? Like, give me a break, dude. So
Right?
what I mean, it did happen, but luckily I feel like I think there was enough societal pushback in a lot of way
Oh, yeah.
to certain stuff where I mean, like, I really feel like it was like the last election sort of like was people talked. I mean, and it was
Yeah.
kind of like, okay, like I think they elected Joe Biden on the idea that he was going to be this sort of benign old dude that was going to take it back to the normal ways or something like that. And then
Yeah.
it's like, then he turned out to be a senile old fart, and people
Right.
were incredibly up in our business and making everything miserable. So it was just like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was kind of like, well, that didn't turn out the way everybody thought it would, but we'll see how it goes. I feel like America's pretty strong.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Especially those with a lot of common sense. It's
mhm.
that's the thing. We got to have some common sense and actually look at the big picture instead of the small one that gets thrown in our face every now and then.
Oh yeah.
And being ex-military, we kind of know that, especially when it came to the mask, because I
Mhm.
was telling everybody these masks aren't going to help us. And I was being
No.
called a conspiracy theorist and told I was stupid. I'm like, okay, I was just in the military in the
Yeah.
chemical operations specialist where we study these masks and
Yeah,
everything.
and
So yeah,
what it's like if you think that thing's gonna save you, the only thing that's probably gonna save you is putting on one of those stupid gas masks or something like that.
yeah.
Other than that, it's like it's not gonna save you, dude. Like,
Nope.
but I mean, people were just so willing to
To
go along
believe
with
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
that's
to
the
the point
scary
where
part.
I think the thing is like you can see things where it's like there's there's people who didn't believe it, people who
Mhm.
did believe it, and then people who violently believe it.
The
And
violent
it's like
ones were the scary
there's some
ones.
lunatics about anything that you can
Yes.
think of. Like, it's almost like any sort of and I feel like it only COVID just sort of like jogged what was already going on, but it's like now I feel like any sort of controversial subject at all, you can see people who are just like puritanically violent about
Losing their minds
like
over it.
they just go nuts. Like one of the ones I've seen lately and stuff, especially going on like in the writing and author community,
Mm,
is AI, and it's like I'm like pretty it's like I see what AI is, and it's
mm,
like it's a very weird one, right? Because it's like that this technology is not going away; it's getting
mm-mm.
augmented into everything. Um, so I guess it's like
Everything.
I don't use it. I haven't really like had like a whole lot of experience with it and stuff like that. But I guess I'm not super anti AI. I'm just kind of like I'm kind of interested, but I've seen Terminator too many times too, so I'm
Right?
always going to be wary. um, but there's people, man, it's like they are just like and like I said, especially in the writing community, they are just so
Against it.
anti-AI that like if you like even like the way that they'll be like there'll be people that'll be like authors will be like, what would you guys think about making like an AI trailer or something like that? And they'll be like, the fact that you would even ask something like that means that you're so not talented in any way, shape, or form to even consider AI. You're a piece of shit. Like just like they're
Wow.
lunatically, puritanically anti-AI to the point where it's like, one of the things about being an indie or self-published author is trying to sort of shake off those chains kind of like of the I guess you call them like the traditional publishers where it's like you
Mm.
have to do this, you have to do that, you have to say this, you have to say that, you have to change this. Everything is just so the
Gotta
way
be
that they want it.
politically correct all the time. No.
Yeah, so it's like this so it's cool with like the indie authors because you're able to write whatever you want
Yep.
and put it out there and let people read your stuff. But it's like they already have people where like I was even reading like something on X and on Reddit where there's people who have already created lists of people who look like authors who look like they've even associated themselves with AI and they're putting them on a list of
Oh
like
my
people to never
God.
associate with and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, that is some scummy shit right
That
there. I'm
is
sorry. It's like
scummy.
because it's just like all you're doing is like you're assuming that this person who's an indie author who maybe has never written a book in their life, you're assuming that they should have the exact same view on AI that you do. And just the pure fact that they would ask that question, wow, it's like you should have known what you didn't know. It's like, so you're going to burn for that. Like, it's like, man, y'all are just creating it's like y'all are just creating like lynch mobs in the
They
exact same way
are.
that anybody else is creating these lynch mobs, where it's like you're just looking for reasons to go after people.
Yep.
It's like just chill the fuck out, will you? Like just
Exactly. I mean,
yeah.
well,
So
when AI first started coming out,
it still
because
trips
I
me out though. I don't like it. There's a
it
lot of
trips
things
me
about it I
out
really do not
too.
like.
Especially how it's taken over. Like, have you seen some of the AI stuff that where they create music and they create the
Yeah, like
websites
videos
and
and
pictures and yeah. Now I can see where a lot of people can get upset over that because I
yeah.
myself am a graphic designer. I'm also a videographer and I do editing on videos
Yeah,
and on
so it
audio.
kind of robs you of your talents
Yeah.
and your job, right? So it's like, and that's I feel like the authors, artists, they all that's where it comes from, and I
Mhm.
100% like agree. Like I do not
Yeah.
think that AI should be writing your book. Like I don't think
No.
that AI should be doing this and all that and everything. But
You can kind of tell
like,
though when AI writes stuff because it doesn't really have any
oh,
feeling or any
it's so
heart,
untalented in every
right?
way. Like,
Exactly.
oh,
Especially with images because you get some of these images that are just like you
it's like,
really
what
look
is
at it
that?
and as a
Yeah.
graphic artist you can see like I don't think that's
Does he
supposed to
have
be
4
there.
thumbs?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's
So
like
it's
you
like,
can see it, but it is gonna be weird though, because it's like I feel like with the way that AI is advancing,
mm,
the things that we don't like about it or think that are weird about it or the things that stand out about it, I feel like after maybe like the next or the generation after that, all that stuff's gonna be fixed. And then it's like
yeah.
then it makes you really wonder, it's like, are they and then, then you gotta think
Terminator.
about yeah. Well, and
That's
then
my
but
biggest fear is
I
Terminator
think the
because
other thing not just the Terminator thing, but just how many people will it put out of work? It's like how many
exactly.
artists or how many people will put out of work because eventually we're gonna have a young generation of people who will not know what, it was like to grow up without AI.
Right?
And so they're not gonna mind books that were written by AI. They're not gonna mind pictures that are like drawn by AI because
Mhm.
as long as they've been alive, they look like masterpiece works of art.
Right.
And it's going to be a very, very weird fight. And like
It
you said, it's like,
is.
and what happens when you tell this AI, hey, it's not allowed to do something anymore,
Right. Well,
And
you saw the interview with Elon Musk and that AI, right?
no, no, I
That
didn't see
robot.
what happened.
Well, there was a part on there, if I can remember correctly. I'm going to be able to get it word for word, but where he was asking about humanity and it was talking about how it needed to destroy humanity. So, and he was like, no, y'all need to stop making this. But now he's wanting to bring AI into a lot of things. And I can see where bringing AI into a lot of things is okay.
I think the other thing too is like when you think about it, so there was one where it showed like I think it was a university, don't quote me on what university, but they tried to put malicious malware into something like ChatGPT, like American AI, right? And it saw it, eliminated it, didn't allow it to go through. But then they tried to put it into like I think it was something like the Chinese AI or something, and all the malicious malware was able to be to pass through all of its firewalls. So then it makes me think that it's like if you did have something like a Skynet type of corrupted AI, the only thing that might be able to fight it would be another AI and an army of programmers that had to like go up against it.
Exactly. And that's scary.
It's just,
that comes back to the mass hypnosis thing where you've got mass media throwing out one thing and feeding the minds of those that don't really care to research or anything, and they're only taking in that one thing.
TikTok.
So they're throwing it into people's faces, and then you got the people like us that do research and actually look at everything as a whole and tries to find the factoids of everything. And
how dare you?
Right? Oh,
how dare you, woman? It's like get the rope, get the stake, burn her, a witch.
Right? Exactly. And it's like, oh my gosh.
When you tell people that their worldview that they have built is not correct,
they don't like it.
They don't like that.
They don't like it at all. And you are the worst scumbag to ever even bring up anything different and have a different opinion. How dare you?
What was it? Some dude the other day, he got on me too about something where it was and it kind of comes back to like my book and stuff. It was that Hitler escaped to Argentina and lived out his life there. And I'm just like, dude, I know. And he was like, oh, well, and he'd bring up like these old research things from like 2009 where they said that a team went over to Russia to test Hitler's body, and then it wasn't Hitler's body that they ended up testing. It actually turned out to be a woman. But then it was like in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, Ava Braun was there, like everybody was there. There's a chance that maybe they just tested the wrong thing. But he took that, and then pretty much anything that happened after that never ever bothered to look, because then in 2018 they said that a French team went to Russia. They found the Russians allowed them to see the body, and they tested it, dental, DNA, all of that, and it was Hitler's body. But man, this dude would not relent. Like he was just like, no, there was eyewitness sightings that saw him. Like people see Bigfoot all the time too, bro. It doesn't mean that it was actually him. Like,
well, he also had a double. He had quite a few doubles. So couldn't it have been one of his doubles?
It could be one of his doubles. It could be another escaped Nazi. It's like, I mean, they've had some crazy things I've seen on some like Discovery things and stuff. Like I think I love Expedition Unknown. It's one of my favorite shows ever. But he went to Argentina, and they went to an old house that hadn't been explored since ever. And they dug around in like the grounds, and they found a Nazi coin there, which means that some asshole lived out his life there in Argentina without ever having been brought to justice. So, it's like you're so fixated on Hitler living out his life there. It's like, dude, there's other ones that did.
Yeah. Like I know unfortunately, I had found that some of my ancestors over in Germany were Nazis, aside from my Opa, my great Opa, who wasn't. And you have both sides of the coin, and you want to make sure those are punished. The ones that sat there but then they want to sit there and bring that all into the American concept of how everybody is turning into Nazi. No, it hasn't got that far yet, y'all.
Yeah, people. That's one of the things I think that like drives me the craziest, right? Is just like having done all this research and like knowing like who the Nazis were and like what they did and like all this other stuff and what their beliefs and how they came to power, all these things. It's like, to just hear some of these morons like running around like you're a Nazi. It's like you have no idea what you were talking about. Like you have zero clue what you're talking about.
No.
So yeah, it's a very convenient thing to throw at people and stuff. So
it is, unfortunately, in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
But on your book, it's called, you want to go ahead and say what it's called?
Sure. So it's got it right here. Oh, so we got Danforth, Eldritch Tales of World War II. The first one is Tomb of the Black Pharaoh. And the second one is going to be coming out soon. I'm actually in the talks with some people about it and stuff like that. So I don't want to give anything away. But just in case, it's like whether or not it like talks happen, I'm still going to end up like putting it out regardless. So
yeah, because you're supposed to have it out tomorrow, but
yeah, and then like I said, started talking with some people. Sounded like maybe they might be interested. So we'll see what happens. But
that's exciting.
Yeah. So, but if that happens, cool. If not, I'm gonna put it out immediately. So
awesome.
Either way, it's like everybody will get to read it. I'm kind of one of those people where I'm like, I'm not gonna like keep all my stuff hoarded in the closet or something like that. Like you'd be like, oh no, like I couldn't. It's like no, if I put that much effort into writing it and stuff, I don't care whether it's a publisher or not. It's gonna see eyes.
Yeah, good deal. Good deal. Mm-hmm. Now the paranormal aspect, because I know that you're into the paranormal stuff too, especially with the stuff that you've mentioned on the books. We're not going to mention what you do because that's confidential, but some of the stuff that you have seen in your job now, what kind of paranormal stuff have you seen?
So mainly, I guess you could say UAPs.
Yeah.
So I was working in Texas on the southwest border. And I mean, it's just, man, some of the weirdness that happens, like when you're just like out there, like especially like at night and you're just like by yourself and everything's like on the low. It's like, yeah, I mean, that Texas sky is just like so fast that you can't then like, there's no way to describe how fast like they move away. And it's just like, and you just like, maybe if you have a partner there, you're like looking at them like, oh, you just fucking see that? And they're like, yeah, I just saw that. But then the worst one is when you see it and you're all by yourself and then you're like,
what?
You're like looking around. It's like, oh man, I had one where it was like, I saw something like that. And I was like, I was creeped out. I was by myself and it was the middle of the night. I'm walking back and my battery on my flashlight died. and,
oh no.
And like, oh yeah. And I was just like, okay, well, that's okay. I always carry a spare one. It's all good. Pull it out, click it on. It's dead. I'm just like, oh shit. I'm like, I had to find my way back to my truck. Like,
oh my God. So it was taking the energy from your flashlights?
No, I don't know, but it's like freaking.
Oh my God.
Both my flashlights were dead. Probably more along the lines that I was just irresponsible and didn't freaking put a battery in them. Usually I do, and so yeah, it was like I was creeped out. I was scared because it's like there's some creepy, scary things out there, and I think I'd sent you some info and stuff. Like they have everything out there from like a so it's the old town. They have like an old haunted train station there. I got to go in there once. That was scary.
Did you have like a lot of movement? Call it the anxious butterflies whenever you're.
Yeah, I would say it goes further than that too, because like you have the anxious butterflies, but then also it's like, I've always I can have the anxious butterflies and keep myself under control. It's kind of part of my thing, but then there's like, you can hear like footsteps and walking around. It is so active. Like there's a dude who actually in our unit, he volunteered to stay the night there with the owner. And the owner was like, all right, if you want to, and stayed the night there. And he left in the middle of the night because he said that it's like he heard like people talking and stuff. He was like, yeah, I can't do that.
See, me and my perspective, because I'm also a paranormal investigator, I'd be like, oh my God, where's my recorder?
Oh yeah. And then there's also like the things with like, you see portions of the old town everywhere you go. So you'll be in the middle of nowhere where you thought there wouldn't be anything,
Mm-hmm.
and there's just a building there, and it's just like, where did that come from? And it used to be part of the old town, like maybe an old settler house or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just run down. It hasn't been lived in like over 100 years or something, but it's just there in the middle of nowhere, and you're just kind of like, yeah, I'm not going in there.
Now,
Yeah,
would you have volunteered to stay?
maybe. I don't know. I'm kind of one of those adrenaline junkies too, where I'm like, if it's gonna bother me and stuff, I'm like, yeah, all right, yeah, I'll sign me up. I'll try it. And then there was a serial killer in that area too. I think I told
I
you it
remember
was
you telling me about that one. Mm-hmm.
there was an article they even wrote on it called "The Heads of Sierra Blanca," where for a while there it was like they were finding severed heads around that part of Sierra Blanca, Texas, and then all of a
Oh
sudden
my
it just
God.
stopped for like people don't know why. Like they don't know. It harkens back to like what they call it, like the Jack the Ripper effect, where it's like
Mm-hmm.
there's a serial killer and killings, and then they stop and they never come back. And it's like, is that because the killer got caught for some other crime that he just didn't like he just was never connected to the killings? Did he die? Like nobody knows what happened to him. So
Or did he
yeah,
go somewhere else and do the same
yeah,
thing?
yeah. I mean, that's another
Those are
possibility.
rabbit holes that I've gone down a lot because I also do true
Oh,
crime
geez.
on this podcast. And whenever you do follow one thing and you go on down, I mean, kind of like H.H. Holmes.
Oh
He was
God,
Jack the
yeah,
Ripper of the United States. I mean, a lot of people
that dude.
have theories that he was over in Europe and came over to the States and then started doing
Yeah,
that here. And it was like, his MO was a little
because he
different
was
here.
gone in that time frame. It was like he
Yeah.
had. Yeah, there's a bunch of. I know they just put out a thing recently saying that they had identified who Jack the Ripper was.
Yeah.
And you'll have to look into it because I can't remember the guy's name. I think he was like a Polish immigrant or something along those
Mm-hmm.
lines. But they said that it's like it matched up because at the time that the killings had stopped and everything like that, he also got committed to an insane asylum for like attempting to murder some woman in the street or something, but it was just in
Mm-hmm.
a different area of town. So
Yep.
kind of makes you wonder. It's like, well, maybe that was him, and he just spent the rest of his life in an insane asylum and died. So,
It
which was where he deserved to be.
it makes a lot of sense, and a lot of people think it was a woman too. And then, I mean,
Mhm.
you got all these theories. It was like,
H.H. Holmes, that man, that one is like
he
that's
was
pretty legendary sicko.
right. I played a
Yeah.
game called oh, I forgot what it was called, but it was based off of H.H. Holmes.
Oh, really?
And oh yeah, it was incredibly dark and
Mhm.
incredibly cryptid the way they imagined it. But with his, and I hate that they tore down
Mhm.
his building
Oh,
because
the murder castle.
yes, because
Yeah.
think of all the possibility. Of course, once a place is haunted, just because you tear it down doesn't make it less haunted.
There's a post office over top of it now.
Yeah, can you imagine all the stuff that goes off
They
there?
say the
Holy
underground
cow.
tunnel there is a very haunted place and stuff with the
Well,
postal employees.
he even said that you need to bury me in concrete because
Mhm.
I will come back. The demon inside me. I'm like, oh my god. So
That dude.
just to go into his head to think about what he was thinking and what he was doing during that time is just.
Mhm. Well, so
Uh,
one of the ones that I think is crazy is the Long Island serial killer.
mm,
And that one, because it's like you had that guy who was just caught recently, where it was like he essentially got linked to what they call the Gilgo Beach Four, where it was like
mm.
there were the four
Oh
bodies that were
yeah, yeah.
found on Long Island,
Mm,
but there's I think like 7 or 8 bodies found there in the same area on Long Island. Meaning, and I was watching if you haven't seen the show Killing Season,
mm.
you have to watch it. It is such a trip on the rabbit hole they go down. But like even one of
Oh,
these experts was talking to you, is like, look at these four. He's like, they are exactly the same, and the motive. It's like they're almost like preserved, almost like a trophy for like if he drives by, he can see the location where they're at so he can like get off on it. These other ones are similar also, but not to those four. They're different. So you're not dealing with one serial killer. You're dealing with
Dealing
two
with
serial
two.
killers using that area as a dumping ground for their bodies.
It's like they knew him or something, or they
Yeah.
seen it and they're like, oh, we could do that.
Or well, that was the crazy part, was it was like they just accidentally found all those bodies all at one time. But there was they keep going more and more down rabbit holes, finding out that they're serial killers, and they actually traced at one point. It was a trucker who was a serial killer, and he said
Quite a
that
few of those.
and he said that he had serial killer friends who were truckers that they used to get together and talk about the things that they would do and like essentially their kills. And he said that he made a mistake because he killed a woman in a state and dropped her in the same state. And he said that the code that they had going was that it's like if you killed a woman in one state, you dropped her off in another state because the states don't talk to each other.
Oh my God.
It was some twisted stuff. Like, and they said like the truckers they were interviewing and stuff, nice like family man and stuff like that. They kind of like knew, they were like, they're like, one of the interviewers was a female. They're like, I would suggest not getting in trucks with people unless you've properly vetted them because you're going to get raped and murdered. And
oh my God.
Yeah.
That is some scary shit.
Yeah. And then they, this one was actually kind of in our area too, was in 2011 in Albuquerque. They dug up I think it was like 11 bodies outside Albuquerque, and they thought that there was a serial killer, but now they're thinking it was actually cartel that was doing it.
I wouldn't doubt if it was cartel at all.
Yeah. Well, the cartel in our area and stuff like that, like in that area of Texas, they said the cartel were actually looking for people who were serial killers that wanted work, essentially.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it.
That's some pretty sick shit.
One of the true crimes that I actually researched on was a girl that I knew when I was a little girl. And I went down a rabbit hole where I had found the Dothan Police Department was part of a cartel situation. The car dealership was part of a cartel situation. And I was asking some people about it, and they said, well, it had to be the cartel because mafia doesn't kill women. Cartel kills women, kills anybody. And I'm sitting there going, well, oh my God. When I talked to my dad about it, my dad was an ex-cop. When I talked to my dad about it, he goes, baby, you need to get out of this. Don't go any further because you're small fry compared to what they are. And I'm sitting there going,
don't go jumping down too many rabbit holes. Otherwise you're going to find something in one of those.
And one of those and be like, nope. Like, damn it. But you want to so badly because you want to get the story out and you want to get people warned of everything, but you can't.
Well, and it's like here in the United States, I think that you're sort of offered a bit of protection in the way that it's like the cartel doesn't want to really usually want to kill Americans. And even if they do, sometimes it's like they're connected to the cartel, like as drug dealers or people like that. But you can't always guarantee that. You can't guarantee that it's like you're not going to cross the wrong person. And it's like if you become something where, you might lead, DEA or HSI or some of them onto the right trail, well, then you're a liability.
Yeah, you need to be taken out. Yeah, I understand that one. So, whenever you get that deep, if you're not big kahunas, you better back off. Unfortunately,
well, even now they've started firing at our border patrol agents on the border and things like that because things are starting to ramp up. So,
from up north too. It was a lot up north, wasn't it?
that guy. So that guy, he was a border patrol agent in Vermont, and obviously the details are kind of they're not something that I can necessarily talk about at the time, but I know this, like, there's some stories out about the people who shot him, that they're actually part of a cult. So,
what is with these cults?
Well, it's this one's called like the Zizian cult or something like that. It's like this weird radical left wing trans cult thing or something, like it's and they're like all like super geniuses or something like that, but it says that they've been linked to, and it's not like I find this on like a conspiracy website too. It was in the New York Post.
Yeah.
If you look up the Zizian cult thing, but yeah, it said that they've been linked to a string of murders across the United States in terms of like basically like eliminating witnesses that were supposed to testify against their cult leader or something in court or something.
Oh my
It's craziness. Yeah,
God. There's too much craziness going on in this world.
there is some like lunacy going on around here.
And not enough arrests or mental asylums to take these people in.
My God, I know. Like somebody said something, they were like, make asylums great again or something. And I was like,
Right?
that sounds like an idea because there's some crazy, crazy people running around right now.
Exactly. Like what happened to all our asylums? Like most of our asylums now are
Ooh,
for
if you want to
paranormal
know what,
investigators.
yeah, well, if you want to see what happened to the asylums, and it's one of the, if you're a paranormal investigator, it's one of the craziest places that you can probably ever investigate. It's called Penhurst School.
Oh,
Have you heard of that one? Do you remember
I've
that one?
heard of Penhurst. Yeah.
Yeah, so Penhurst, it was supposed to be a school for essentially it was like the mentally impaired.
Mhm.
But it spun out of control to the point where they had like hundreds of these like mentally ill kids that were put in there for one orderly or something like that. They were like they had the ability to speak and read when they come in, and they would
Mhm.
lose the ability to speak and read while they were there because
Oh
of
my
like their lack of
gosh.
care. They're like so they had like a big report where they basically like pulled the lid off it, and like reporters went in there and like they're like it there were like dead bodies laying in like beds and like people chained up and these kids being beaten and like they were like covered in like their own filth and feces and just horrifying things. And one of the worst things was they said if a kid would bite, they would give them one warning, and then if they bit a second time, they strapped them into a dental chair and had all their teeth removed.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and they closed it down, but it's one of the most haunted places I think in the United States. So
Oh man. Kind of like
yeah,
Waverly.
yeah,
Listening to a lot of the horrors that happened
Waverly
at
is legendary.
Waverly. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
Waverly's legendary though.
Oh yeah. Oh
I feel
my
like it was
God.
like it wasn't even that Waverly needed to do anything. It was just people were dying of tuberculosis at such a rate that it was like there was just nothing they could do. It was pretty much like here you are, you're here to see your last days, and then you're going down the body chute.
Yeah. Well, the lobotomies were a big thing too back then, and they were doing a
Yeah,
lot
that was
of.
another thing they were doing at Penhurst was lobotomy. Like I said, the teeth removal thing, chaining kids up to walls and like chaining them into their beds and stuff. It was some sick stuff. So it was kind of like that knee jerk reaction where I was like, okay, like everybody shut down all the asylums and stuff, like shut down all this crap. Like now it's kind of one of those things where it's like, should they have shut it down or should they have had a severe reform? I don't know. But sometimes it's like when stuff gets that corrupt and disgusting, sometimes you have to shut it all down,
Yeah.
but then maybe build it back from scratch, I guess, to be better. But yeah, like I would never ever want to see something like that happen.
No.
For
People
sure.
shouldn't be tortured because they're mentally ill. They need to be taken care of.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of the asylums and why a lot of them were shut down is because they weren't being taken
Turned
care of.
into
They
a
were being
torture
tortured.
chamber.
Yeah.
It
It
was
was
like
like it's
torture chamber where people could take their like unwanted family member and just dump them there and stuff, like on
right.
the doorstep. Like it wasn't even to like hope that their family member got better. Like it's just some of them they'd just be like, "Here you are. Here's my retarded son. Take him."
I'm
And like,
done.
"Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
done dealing with him."
No.
It's
No,
like,
that's not the way it should be. It's
well, they
like
said some of those ones where those things they said like started to come from like imbecile and idiot and things like that was it was like they
mm,
came from those places where it was like they just had like nicknames for like people who were like just like mentally not all there, so they could just call them like morons,
no.
idiots, imbeciles. It's like, wow, nice, real nice.
Right? Y'all are
Yeah.
sunshines. Rays of
Hmm.
sunshines. No, no. It's sad what happened, but I do believe that they need to come back in a retrospect of
Well, yeah, because
people
now
that
you see
need
the way
help.
some people act. Like you're like, dude, like you need to get locked up. Like
Right?
I feel like you're like one bad thing away from like being a severe danger to society. Like what is wrong with
Exactly. Especially a lot of these violent people and people that are
you? Yeah,
asking for violence to happen. It's like, no,
yeah.
why? We're
You see
not
people
that.
like chase like it's like there's somebody who's like videotaping some lunatic chasing after him for something. They're like jumping
Yeah.
on the hood of their car on their windshield and stuff like that. It's like, you know, all I think to myself sometimes, like, you could probably put the phone down and just beat the crap out of this person or something.
Right?
Like sometimes some of these Looney Tunes are like off their rocker. Like you don't know if they're
They
gonna pull a gun
are.
out on you or something like that. Like they're crazy,
I
but
saw
they're just
one person that was
walking around.
videotaping and they were just going down the road and somebody was telling them, you don't need to be videotaping me. You don't need to be videotaping me. It's like, I had it on the ground. It wasn't even videotaping your face.
God,
And he walked past them and they turned around and started following him. And he
yeah,
was like, look, dude, I don't want any problems. I'm going by. I didn't even get your face. And they started just yelling at him, calling him names and everything. And this dude didn't do anything. He was just saying, I don't want any trouble. So he
yeah.
finally turned it around and focused on the face. And that person pulled their purse up and just hit him with it
Oh my
out of
God.
nowhere. So he's just like, oh my God, and knocked his camera out. So you could see the camera fall on that person and him. And he just
Mm,
lays into that person, knocks them on their ass. And then they're playing victim and saying, oh my God, did you see him hit me? And blah, blah.
I
Dude, you were
love that. I
asking
love that.
for
It's like when
it.
someone acts like a lunatic and somebody like pops them or something, they're like, "Oh my
Yeah,
God." It's like, what made you think that you could act like that and that somebody wasn't gonna have do something? It's like
exactly. I mean, you
they
hit
had one
me, I'm
just
going to hit
here.
you back.
They had one here in Florida. I think it was up in Florida. It's always Florida.
Oh,
Up in Fort Lauderdale, but like the guy had it on the internet. Same kind of thing. It was like these two women were in the parking lot of like a Publix. They're
mhm.
just screaming back and forth obscenities at each other. I don't know if it was over a parking space or what, but he's just kind of laughing, like
Yeah.
filming it. And then she's like, turn that fucking camera on, like yelling at him. He's like, no,
Uh,
no way. What are you talking about? I was just filming you. And he's like, you were acting like a lunatic screaming at that lady. And she's like,
right?
you turn that thing off or I'm going to fucking hit you. He doesn't turn it off. And she hits him and he pops her and knocks
Right?
her on her ass. And then she's all like, oh my God, call the cops.
Sure, call the cops. We got
It's like,
video
go for it.
proof.
Like, yeah, it's like, go for it. Just do that. It's just like, I don't understand why people think that they can act like that. And then next thing
And
you know,
not
they're like, oh my God, call
take
911.
responsibility for the consequences that they cause themselves. That's the
And
biggest problem with society nowadays is nobody wants to take responsibility for their own actions.
I guess maybe it was like, I don't know if I grew up in another time or just because of where I grew up, but like I grew up in Montana. And like, if you act up like that, it's like somebody's gonna knock you out like
Same in
in
Southern
2 seconds
Alabama.
flat.
Don't mess
Yep.
with people because
Like it's like, dude, it's like people are very nice. It's like, but I always describe people from Montana as like politely and gloriously uncivilized, where it's like it can turn into mountain man shit in 2 seconds. It's like you screw around and somebody
screw
is going
around
to
and
knock
find
your
out.
yeah, somebody's going to knock your ass out. So it's like you always kind of, but it keeps like an era, it keeps a thing of politeness though, because it's like
Hmm.
a lot of times it's like you'd see things that would devolve into a fight or something like that, and it's like, and you didn't want that, so everybody's usually polite, but you would still see people act like that. Even when I was
Oh,
growing up, like I remember a school board meeting with some people acting like that, like screaming at each other and fighting. And it's like, this is a school board meeting, people. Like,
right.
yeah,
I don't understand people. Some of these people nowadays, a lot of what people call entitlement now. A lot of
yeah.
people think they're entitled to things and they don't want to, they just
I
want it
think it's that
easy things.
antisocial type of thing to do with it too, where it's like we have so I guess you could say like less human interaction and stuff like that. It's like, we're always online talking to each
Yeah,
other.
people are
Like we're
dehumanizing
not
people.
going to our neighbor's house and hanging out like we should. And it's
Right?
like, so you get all these people who it's like they live their whole life online. and it's like they just think that they can act however they want, and
Yeah.
that's just, you know, you have to put up with it. And it's like,
The
no,
lack of
no.
empathy and compassion in some people anymore is just the way
Oh
they
yeah.
dehumanize human beings. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I go out in public and I'm always nice and smile and say hello and polite, but you've got some people that are just off their rocker
Jerks.
anymore. Yeah. These
Yeah.
keyboard warriors that think that they can
Oh
just
god.
do what they want to do, and then they try to do that in
They're the funniest
public.
ones though.
Yeah, they are. But they think they can do it in public, and then they get popped for it, and they're like, "Whoa,
It's like,
what
well, if
is?"
you had left your mom's basement for one time or something before this, then maybe you would know that you can't act that way in real life.
I guess it's just our generation, though. Our generation knows what it's like to
Oh
be
yeah.
to scrap and to know,
Well, and I remember life before a cell phone came around. You know, it's like
same.
I remember life like before the internet came around and before like, you know,
Yep.
like MySpace and like all these other things came around. So,
Same.
you know,
Same.
you didn't have like and even when that came around, you had people where it's like they live their life on World of Warcraft or online, and people thought they were weird for doing that. But
Yeah.
now it's like everybody sees like these people where it's like they live their life online all the time, and it's just like nobody says anything. They're like, yeah, it's normal. It's like, no,
Oh,
it's not
no, that's
normal.
not normal. That's not normal.
No.
It was so scary though, because I remember growing up, like you said, without internet, without cell phones. Our idea of fun in the back seat wasn't watching something on TV or on your phone. It was,
Yeah.
okay, let's look at the surrounding area and look at the clouds and look at the cows and everything
I
that
have to
goes
tell that to my
by.
kids and stuff like that. Like they're watching that, I'm like, oh, like I'm like railing against their tablet or something like that because my son's saying it's like not loading. And I was like, you know what I had to do when we had a long cross country trip when I was your age? I just had to stare out the window.
Yeah, stare out the window or sleep. That's all we
Yeah.
could do.
But they'll just say something. They'll be like, that must have sucked. It's like it did. It did.
It
It
did,
sucked.
very much so. They're
Have you
so
ever had 8
privileged
hours of staring
anymore.
out the window?
It sucked bad.
Yeah.
But you look back on it, and it's like I think about all the stuff that you imagine in your head. People had imagination and creativity and stuff.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's what can I find online that can be creative?
Yeah.
Why?
Create something. Make something up.
Right? Just like this podcast. I've been doing this podcast for years. I've had a previous
Mhm.
podcast before this, and it's just you got to use your imagination sometimes. You got to dig deep. Don't just rely on everything that's online and think you're going to get
I've always
somewhere
had
on
the
it.
problem of having a big imagination, and sometimes like my head's in the clouds. So
That's why you write books.
yeah, yeah,
Now,
gotta get it on there somehow. Otherwise, it's like I'll just be
exactly.
like, "Hmm?"
Now, you said you wrote books before this?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And did you ever have any out?
Nope, nope.
Why?
I've always abandoned ship. It's I've had so many good ideas, so many things that I probably, but you know, but I think that's one of the things now, right? Is like after doing this, I might pick up some of those old ones because I feel like it's like even looking back on it now, you know, it's like some writers will say like they had an idea for something that they were writing and then it died on the vine or something. But when they
Mm,
look back on it, they're like, I think the reason it died was because it wasn't that great anyway. And thinking about it, it's kind of stupid. I look
mm,
back on them now and I'm like, I think that would have been a really good one if I had kept up with it. So I think that's something I might do is like start looking back into my old, some of my old stories and stuff. And even if I
mm.
don't have them somewhere, I still got them in my head. I can get them out.
Yep. That's the best thing. It's all in your head. Now, did you ever
Mhm.
dream about any of the stories you've written or
I don't think so. These ones I've been pretty um into and stuff like that. So it's like going through all the different stuff and like weird like eldritch entities and stuff like that. And it's like if you I even one of the ways that I'll do it sometimes is like say every writer kind of gets to that point where it's like you're motivated. And then
mm,
you kind of hit a little bit of a wall and you feel like you don't know like get that motivation back. So sometimes it's like I'll set myself up for like a mood. So what I'll do is like I'll make it a real creepy setting to write.
mhm,
So I'll get like some like of like those like candles. I'll light some of those. I'll put like this like weird like ambient music in the back, and I'll like have like a dark room, and I'll just like be sitting there like writing almost like Halloween style. But if I do that, then it ends up being kind of like a like I'll be like ready to go to bed. I'm like I just creep myself out like
I'm
trying to write
awake
it.
now.
Yeah. It's like crap, or it's just my mind keeps going to where it's like I can't stop thinking. So even once I go to sleep, it's
It's
still
still
like in jog
going.
mode. So then I'll have like a nightmare or something. I'm
Oh
like,
no.
yeah, and I have violent nightmares. So I gotta,
Oh
from
yeah.
PTSD to like other stuff. It's like, yeah, when I have a nightmare in the middle of the night and stuff, my poor wife puts up with so much
Oh,
stuff for me. So
what a wonderful lady. What a wonderful
I know,
lady.
bless her heart.
Do you ever write any of the stuff down, like you're at work or something and you come up with an idea and you just kind of have to jot it
Yes,
down real quick? Yeah.
all the time, all the time. There, oh man, um, I have like a whole, what do you say, like a whole Word document of just nothing but like crap that I thought of that I'm like, and it might just be like a bullet point of stuff
Mm.
that I was like, this would be a good idea for something in the future. And that's how it was like with this book, I've been able to kind of, like have it all set up and like have the entire series pretty much mapped out in my head prior to even getting to the second book, was because once this one went out, I was just like, oh my God, same thing. It's like, I'm about to go to sleep. It's like, yeah. Oh my like idea. And it's like, then like, I hope I remember that for the next day or something like that. And then like 3 days later, I'll remember it or something. I'm like, oh no. And now I start writing it down. Because I have tons of ideas. Some of them good, some of them stupid. But it's like,
Hey, an idea is an
and
idea, right?
yep. The only what was, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was like the only difference between a genius idea and a stupid idea is how well it came out in the end.
Yep. That is a
Yep.
good one. That is a good one. So, what advice would
Mhm.
you give an aspiring author that's looking to blend historical fiction with supernatural?
Don't give up. That's the only thing I can say is like just don't give up, because it's like, I mean, I had like, I'm about to be 40 years old. I had years of just like writing and writing and writing, and then just letting life get in the way. And I understand. It's like, like, believe me, I understand. It's like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's like you have to take a break from that, or like maybe I think the most difficult thing is hitting those moments of writer's block and
Oh
losing
God.
motivation. And
Yeah.
that's where so many authors just let it die.
Die.
And I think they said something where it was like, of all the people who start writing, only about, like, I think it was something like 7% or 8% of authors ever actually finish their books, and only about 3% of authors actually like get it published or put it, or like even try to submit it.
Oh.
So you have people who finish that still don't even try.
Yeah.
So I guess it's one of those things where I'm like, if you think that it's a story that's worth telling, then let it be. Because if you don't tell it, then nobody will ever know.
That is awesome. That
Mhm.
is really awesome. Now, are there any historical figures or events you'd like to explore in your future books?
Ooh, yeah. Funny part is so I don't know if you've ever seen or heard their podcast, but there's the Paranormal UK,
Mm-hmm.
Paranormal Portal UK, and I have been in talks with them that, since they do kind of the same thing where they investigate different historical things, cryptids, like all kinds of weird stuff. What I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
start doing is I'm going to write a different kind of Lovecraftian horror for a historical thing, give it to them. They're going to do one episode where it gets read in full, so it'll be about like a 30-minute short story based
Yeah.
on a historical, like something, some sort of real event or
Oh, that
cryptid,
sounds so
whatever you think it
cool.
is. And then they're going to do the follow-up episode where they actually dive into the research of what the actual event was.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. That's a great idea.
I think it'll be fun.
I think it'll be amazing. Yeah, definitely.
It'll give me so many opportunities to dive into like so many events and just sort of put like it'll allow me to bend and maybe like warp a little bit of the event, but then the fact that they'll be able to do like that follow-up one of this is the actual event, then they'll make it like more fun, because then it'll be like,
It
so
would.
it's just kind of based on it.
That would be fun. Now, if you could collaborate with any author, living or dead, on a cosmic horror story, who would it be and why?
Well, I mean, obviously it's like based on Lovecraft stuff. So
Yeah.
living, there's a couple authors like I really love, Ramsey Campbell's stuff. Adam Neville is another one. He's a real good dude, and he's like, did you see the Ritual on Netflix?
I haven't seen the whole thing, no.
Yeah, that's based on his books and stuff.
Really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and the funny part was I didn't know that either. And I've gotten the chance to talk to him and stuff. He's a really great dude. But yeah, like there's quite a few. It's like I still like Stephen King. Obviously, like he's always going to be like the monumental horror
All
writer and
right.
stuff. So yeah, the thing is like, as much as it's like I'm a horror writer, I'm also a big Tolkien nut. So
I'm big Tolkien. So you're gonna put some of the Tolkien ideas into your book?
oh no, that fantasy one, the Afghanistan one I was telling you about, that's got some Tolkien elements to it. So
Oh,
it gives me
nice.
it's going to give me my
Your fix
fantasy
on that
fix
one.
and stuff like that. Yeah, it'll give me my Tolkien fix for that one.
That's pretty awesome. Now, do you said to me before that the book that you're currently waiting on to come out, if you don't hear anything, it's still going to come out. Do you know approximately when it's going to come out?
I'm only gonna say, like, I don't really want to go more than like a little while on it. I'm gonna keep seeing how the like negotiation goes. I'm gonna say if it doesn't happen within the next month, it's gonna come out.
Okay.
So,
Awesome. Awesome. Well, where can listeners find your books? Where can they stay updated on your works?
So right now it's like, I have my X account. I also have my Amazon account. I'm still working on getting my own website going, stuff like that. That's kind of, I'm new to all this. This is my first thing, so there's so much stuff that I still have to do that other authors have had decades of like being able to do.
Yep.
But yeah, so it's like you can find the books on Amazon. I do have so right now I got paperback and hardcover and the Kindle version, and I am almost finished. I have a producer doing it. I have the audiobook coming out too.
Oh,
So
sweet. I love audiobooks. They
yeah,
are
me
so
too.
awesome.
I consume audiobooks like nobody's business, because anytime I have to read is usually spent writing or doing something. So like when I'm in the car, I'm just flip on Audible and just letting
Yeah.
it go. I
Same.
feel
Or
like
if I'm
so many
designing
people
something on
do.
graphics, I'm listening to audiobooks while I'm doing graphics, or I'm listening to EVPs or whatever I'm doing,
Yeah, I have to listen to them while I'm driving, because it's like, for me, it's like when I'm listening to a book or like an audiobook, it like sometimes it's like I'll listen to audiobooks to get myself motivated to keep writing, because it's like I listen to it and I just kind of like I let it sink in.
Wheels
But
start turning.
I know too many people too where they're like, oh, put on an audiobook to turn my brain off. I'm like, how? Turn your brain off? Like, how
No.
are you going to turn your brain off? Like, why would you
Supposed to
turn your
give you
brain off?
inspiration.
Yeah.
Now they
I
can find
think
you on X at Christopher Michael, right?
so it'll be it's Chris underscore M underscore author.
Okay. All
Yep.
right. And on Amazon it's Christopher Michael,
Yep.
author, right?
And you'll be able to I guess we can put like a link in the description, stuff like that, for the
Definitely.
book, and people will be able to find the author page there and stuff. I'm also on Goodreads also.
Awesome. Yeah, I've got it through Kindle, so I've been reading it,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna get a hardback and he's gonna sign it. So I'm
Oh, absolutely.
I'm gonna
Absolutely.
get that. Well, thank you so much. Don't go anywhere. It's been an awesome time to talk with you and converse about paranormal and about Lovecraft and about all this other stuff. And I know we could probably go down a rabbit hole 2 hours more.
Hours.
Right? So whenever your book does come out, I'd love to have you back on so we can promote that one as well.
Absolutely.
But until next time, guys, thank you so much for listening and for tuning in today. If you don't catch it on Twitch or Kick by the time it goes off, you could go to my Rumble account at E.P.P podcast and you'll be able to see it there. Until next time, stay free, stay safe, always do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and I will see you guys later. Bye, y'all. All right. We are clear, yeah.
Haunted, come along. Haunted houses all night long. Gaming streams and ghostly scenes. Just chatting with the in-betweens. IRL, she's on the case. Finding spirits in each place. Every game she plays with flair. Geeks, paranormal, she's there. Ghosts and games all night. Geeks, paranormal's bright. Just chatting feels so right. Trying to stream, it's quite a sight. From the haunted house she flies, gaming worlds under the skies. Chat and laugh, let's have a blast. Geeks paranormal here at last. Ghosts and games all night. Geeks paranormal's bright. Just chatting feels so right. Try to stream, it's quite a sight. From the haunted house she flies, gaming worlds under the skies. Chat and laugh, let's have a blast. Geeks paranormal here at last. Ghosts and games all night. Geeks paranormal's bright. Just chatting feels so right. Try to stream, it's quite a sight. In the dark she finds the light. Streams so fun, she's out of sight. Every ghost and gaming fight. Geeks paranormal shines so bright. In the dark, she finds a light. Streams so fun, she's out of sight. Every ghost and gaming fight. Geeks paranormal shines so bright. Ghosts and games all night. Geeks paranormal's bright. Just chatting feels so right. Try to stream, it's quite a sight. It's quite a sight.